Annabeth jumped behind Kelly ninja style and stabbed her in the back. The demon witch dissolved into yellow vapor. Mrs. O'Leary attacked one giant while Daedalus killed the other. Minos raised his hands and said, "Spirits of the dead, to my aid!" Spirits of soldiers appeared on either side of him. Nico cleaved his sword into the stone floor like butter. The room shook and the windows shattered. No! The Ghost King and his army was sent straight back into the underworld. Daedalus told the kids to strap themselves into the metal wings and fly out before more monsters came, and also to fly low no matter what. He decided to stay behind so the monsters wouldn't follow them. They all jumped out the window and flew across the field on their metal wings. Percy kept his wings straight as possible, just as he remembered from his dreams, and passed it on to the others. Minutes later, a big explosion came from the workshop. Greek fire filled the whole window, and they couldn't tell if Daedalus and Mrs. O'Leary made it out. Then Percy felt his back getting hot and extra sweaty. "We better land now," Annabeth yelled. "These wings won't last forever." So they swooped down to the Garden of the Gods. Percy saw that Annabeth was right. The metal feathers were already melting. Percy looked back at where Daedalus's workshop had been. The smoke had already cleared up, but the windows had completely vanished as if nothing happened. Being the son of Hades, Nico had sensed that Daedalus wasn't dead and that the Labyrinth was still intact. That had Annabeth convinced that Luke's army would still use the maze to break into Camp Half-Blood and that they had to get back. She was also convinced that the maze was the quickest way back. Percy didn't want to say it, but he was hoping that maybe, just maybe, they would find Grover and Tyson along the way. After throwing away the wings in the nearest dumpster, they decided they needed a ride to find a new entrance to the Labyrinth. Rachel grimaced at a nearby limo driver as if she were about to do something she would regret. "I'll take care of our ride problem," she told them. "How?" Annabeth asked. "Just trust me." She marched over to the limo driver. Percy couldn't hear what Rachel was saying to the driver, but it seemed like she was trying to talk him into helping them, and he refused. Then Rachel said something else that made his eyes widen. Whoever he was speaking to on the phone, he quickly told them he'd call back. Then Rachel asked him to wait for her, and she walked back to the boys just as Annabeth came back from the bathroom. Annabeth told them she managed to contact Chiron using an iris message, and that Chiron mentioned that the camp was going to need all the help it could get. A minute later, they were cruising down the road. Percy didn't understand why the chauffeur would just agree to help them if he didn't even know them, and Rachel was refusing to volunteer the info. They drove through Colorado Springs for about half an hour, and then Rachel sat bolt upright. "I think I saw something," she exclaimed. "Get off the next exit," she told the driver. So they took the next exit and pulled over. Rachel thanked the driver, and he didn't even ask for money or anything. She led them about 100 yards away from where they stopped. Then she pointed to a doorway in a hill, an old mine entrance that was boarded up with wood. Sure enough, the Delta symbol was printed on the side of the doorway. However Rachel had seen something so tiny all the way from the highway, they had no idea. Percy touched the symbol and the wooden beam sank into the ground. For better or worse, they were back in the Labyrinth. The dirt tunnels turned to stone instead of red bricks, as if the Labyrinth were no longer perfect now that the heart of the maze had been collapsed. To Percy's surprise, Rachel and Annabeth started up a conversation about architecture as they walked. It turned out that Rachel had gained some of her own knowledge of architecture during art classes. So that left Percy to hang back with Nico in uncomfortable silence. Percy thanked Nico for coming back for them, and Nico finally explained that he was trying to get Daedalus' soul to bring back Bianca, and not Percy's. The whole idea of any mortal soul avoiding death for that long, that's just not natural, he said. It hasn't been easy, you know, having only the dead for company and knowing that I'll never be accepted by the living. Only the dead respect me, and they only do that out of fear. You could be accepted at camp, Percy said. You could have friends. He stared at him. Do you really believe that, Percy? He didn't answer. The truth was, he didn't really know. Nico had always been a little different, but since Bianca's death, he'd become so scary. He had his father's dark eyes, and his same look that made Percy suspect that he was either a genius or a madman. And the way he banished Minos, it was kind of impressive, but it made Percy uncomfortable. Before he could figure out what to tell Nico, he bumped into the girls. The tunnel continued straight ahead, but a side tunnel teed off to their left, a circular shaft carved from black volcanic rock. What is it? Percy asked. Is this the way? Annabeth asked Rachel. No, Rachel said nervously. Not at all. So why are we stopping then? Percy asked. There's something evil down there, Rachel said, and very powerful. And the smell of death, Nico added. Percy wasn't sure how that smelled, but he smelled something very familiar which brought back bad memories. The smell of eucalyptus trees. There was only one place where Percy smelled that before. He and Annabeth exchanged glances, and they both knew where the tunnel led to. Luke's entrance, she said. The one to the Titan's palace. I had to check it out, Percy said. No one else has to come. Percy, no, please, Annabeth begged. I'll be quick, he promised. Besides, I don't want to risk you guys getting captured again. Then, at least take this, she said, and she lent him her baseball cap. Thanks, he said, and he disappeared down the tunnel. As Percy walked, he remembered the last time Annabeth and him had parted ways in Mount St. Helens, and she gave him a kiss for a good luck. This time, all he got was the hat. Before he even reached the exit, he saw more telekines. Luckily, there were only two of them, and they were both focused on a boy standing between the two of them. Percy couldn't tell who it was with his back turned, and the boy was holding something long and gold. Percy had to remind himself he had to stay hidden. He did not want to walk into any more fights, not while he was needed elsewhere, but he managed to step quietly out of the tunnel. As he stood there, he heard a faint sound of swirling wind off to his left. There stood the same black marble fortress he'd seen in his dreams. He could still hear Atlas groaning in the distance, still laboring under the weight of the sky. There! One of the Telkine shouted. The boy lifted up the golden stick, and Percy saw that it was the same gigantic scythe from Hephaestus' forges. Careful, fool, the Telkine scolded. One touch of the blade and it can separate your soul from your body. Once the master reclaims his old weapon, we shall be rewarded beyond measure. And you, young half-blood, shall be there when he awakes. Percy finally understood. They rebuilt Kronos' old weapon so he could use it again once he would be completely restored. Percy ran to the fortress. He hated the idea of ever needing to go back into that creepy place ever again, but he knew what he had to do. He had to stop Kronos from rising. This may have been his only chance.